Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, the 15th of May, and today I want to think about the question what separates man from God? What separates the level of man from the level of God? What is the difference between man and God? Or how can we reach divinity? The point of divinity. What is actually divinity? So before I start, I want to talk about words again, the words that I'm using, the definition for words, so that we're all on the same page. When I say God, I do not mean the creator, the field, the creator of all. As far as I'm concerned, it is the field, energy, whatever that is, that creates consciousness. Consciousness is created out of the field. And it is consciousness that then creates realities. There is no separation. The consciousness that is created out of the field is the field. And what it creates is again out of the energy of the field. So what is created by consciousness is also the field. Creator is all. Creator is not one. Creator is everything. Every consciousness that emanates out of the creator is creator. So he's not just one thing. And we are all a part of him, but we are the part that creates. The part of him that creates. So to say there is, first of all, creator is one, no, creator is everything. Ultimate diversity. To say one part that is created is the only creator God is the lie that the devil told you. It doesn't exist. In this world, we are surrounded by consciousness on many different levels, and they all contribute. They all receive of this world, and they contribute to creating this world. So no, this world is not created by one, but by all that have their being in it. That is the truth. The one that elevates himself to say, I am the only creator God, is a liar. He might be trying to be that, but as I said, they are not omnipresent, they're not omnipotent, they're not infallible. So no, they are not the only creator God. If something exists outside of them, that might spoil their plans. So if I talk about God, I'm talking about that level of being, what is described as the gods of the Bible, which are beings. When Jesus is talking about my Father in heaven, a consciousness that is not yet part of the web of life, of the web of consciousness that is earth, is outside of that. It's still only a being, something on the level of being, that again is trying to be the only creator God. The only way they can do it by subduing everything else. Still, okay, but I think that level exists. And it is a level of consciousness or a form of consciousness that is God. Again, it is not outside the created. It is very much inside of the created. And it is only one part. You are one part now, you will remain one part once you reach divinity. That will not change. So what is it then that is divinity? Now again, as said, we are surrounded by consciousness. Everything is consciousness in this world. And also I'm basing that on the old teachings. Yeah, I'm not making this up as I go along. In the old teachings it says there is 4 kingdoms in this world. 4 kingdoms in this world. The mineral, the vegetative, the animal, and man. Levels of consciousness. Forms of consciousness. Bandwidth of consciousness. Now, the main difference that I can see looking at this between them is the amount to which they are self-conscious. And half, here goes, self-determination. That seems to be the main difference between the levels. So we're on the level of man, where we have woken up to the realization that we are something. Yeah, if there are now those that teach you everything is an illusion and you do not actually exist, they're trying to bring you down to a lower level again. They're trying to turn you into a plant life or something, I don't know. But if you're a man on that level, you have realized, I exist. I am something. I am consciousness. It's another level of realization. I think, therefore I exist. That sort of thing. But man still is on the level saying, well, I am, but what am I? Everybody's running around saying that. What are we? What are we doing? What are we in? And that is actually the threshold to divinity. When you're asking, what am I? Yeah, man is still knowing I am, but what am I? It's the threshold to divinity in my book. And then here comes those in the Bible that refer to themselves as I am. They know what they are. And that is the big difference between man and God, knowing what it is you are. So where is that knowledge coming from? And here really comes self-determination. And that is divinity. Self-determination. That is the level of man, and man determines what he is. That is then stepping into divinity. Self-determination. As long as you are sitting there saying it will come from somewhere else, something is going to give it to me. Some God will come and give me freedom and self-determination. No, if something has to give that to you, then it is determined by something else. And that is not self-determination. You're still on the level of man that is being ruled over by something else that will tell you what it is you are. The man of clay that is being formed, that is still unformed, that is not yet a solid I am, so to speak. And the potter is, you're the clay and the potter is something else. Again, it is the book of the Revelation where the potter will come and tell us all what it is we are. And we will be stood there as children being programmed into the knowledge of ourselves, and that is absolutely not self-determination. So I want to bring in Jesus at this point and his choice, because again, at some point you reach the top of knowledge of self, and that is true enlightenment. That is the only true enlightenment, is knowledge of self. It's not knowledge of something out there. That is not enlightenment. I know the Palladians. I'm enlightened to the knowledge of the Palladians. My true enlightenment is again knowing I am. What am I? So Jesus stood there knowing I am, and anything is possible from that point onward. Again, there is self-determination. You're at the point where you have total self-determination. At that point, he decided to reject that. That is the way of the cross. That is the way of denial of self. It is the complete rejection of self-determination. But to allow another, again, we're talking on the level of being. We're not talking about the all or whatever, the Creator himself. No, there is another being there. You're allowing another being to determine what it is you are. One other being to determine completely what it is you are. That is the way of the cross. Again, you're standing at that point of all possibilities. That is a possibility. And that is a choice you can make, obviously. Again, that is self-determination, to determine that you don't have self-determination. I mean, that's the last decision the self will make, but it can make it. So, and Jesus, again, in his teaching, the way he taught, he said, those that would follow me, again, there is a choice. You can make that choice. Paul says, there's no other way. It is the only way. It is the only thing you can do. You must. You must, because it is the will of God. It is the will of that other being that you shall be ruled over by them. And is that a good enough reason to give up yourself because somebody else wants to rule over you? I don't know. Not for me. So really, that is the gods of the Bible, the ones that have divinity, that know who they are, coming from the level of man that is conscious that he is something, to determining what it is I am. That's the level of divinity, the level of the gods. Because again, the gods of the Bible, if you look at the story, they have determined that they are the rulers, the mighty ones, the elevated ones. That is how they see themselves. That is their definition of themselves. And then that is the self. Again, we are being told our self is being nothing. We are that has to be the vessel for the will of something else. Unless we become I am. So here is self-determination. To what degree are we actually free to determine what we are? And what is it actually the self that determines what it is? Completely uninfluenced by anything else, can that actually happen? Because as I see it, we are a part of a web of consciousness in this world, in this reality. There will be a cosmic web of consciousness. Let's say that is the reality of what it is we're in. That is the reality of what it is we're in. We are in a web. And the connections, and we are connected to other consciousness around us. There is an exchange of energy, inside of the web. And if you are connected to something, the energy that you receive will influence you. That you cannot receive energy of something else and not being influenced by it. It will have an impact on you. So again here, where is self-determination? I think the only point of self-determination is when you realize you are in that web, you realize that you are surrounded by other consciousness, that you are being influenced by them. If you're energetically in the web, you will be influenced by them. And then the point of self-determination is really, what are you being influenced by, and to what amount are you being influenced by it? There is your choice. I think that is your choice, really. To remain in the web, but to determine which part you are connected to, and to what amount do you allow those connections to influence you. And that, again, you need to be aware of self. You must be aware of, well, the kingdom within, and the others, the kingdom without. You must be aware of what is coming into you and what it is doing inside of you. Complete self-awareness, and out of that, complete self-determination. Because you can cut yourself off from influences. You can allow influences, and you can cut yourself off from them. Again, the way of Jesus is the way of the One. It is the way of the One. It's not the only truth. But to have only one connection to one other being, that being being a God, that sees itself as, I am the one that is creating all. I mean, that God is on the height of delusion, and you're buying into it, you believe. But then you connect to only the One, and let that one influence you completely. And then you have no self-determination. That is the way of Jesus. That is the way of the one God, of the one true God. He will become your one true God, because that is the only thing you are allowing in. You will not know anything else. That does not make it the only truth in existence. You made that your truth. I said that was the last step of self-determination that Jesus ever did. And after that, there was nothing. Yeah, that is really it. So if you are in the web, to have complete and utter detached self-determination, no, that does not exist either. Because you are being influenced by all the energies around you. And in the end, that is what gives life, yeah, to everything there, the constant giving and receiving of all that is sustaining the whole. I don't know, can you detach completely and be yourself just in a bubble? How would you sustain yourself in that bubble? How would consciousness sustain itself detached from everything else, in oblivion, really? Consciousness would be in a oblivion bubble, oblivious to everything else. How would it sustain itself in that bubble? What do you have to be in life to even exist? Be part of the web. And I said, then self-determination is only, what do you allow in? What do you allow to influence you? And what do you cut yourself off from? And that would then be self-determination in the web, whilst remaining in the web. And that would be a God that is in this world and of this world. Self-determination, yes. Divinity, yes. But not by elevating yourself out of the web, or by connecting to only one point somewhere else. And here is, that would then mean you remain human. Stay level of divinity, yes. Level of God, yes. Whilst remaining human. And that is the only way we can reach divinity without being totally destructive. Which we will be if we go the way the gods of the Bible. We will become totally destructive. And here, that's the last thing I want to say, because at the moment, again, we're talking about waking up to the level, to the knowledge of self. Yeah, self-determination. What am I? And at the moment, it seems that is something to be decided by a 4-year-old. Yeah, you can be man, male, female, cat, dinosaur, it doesn't really matter. Or you can become something else. Yeah? You are every choice out there. Every choice out there. You're all there ever was and ever will be. Yeah? There's all those choices all around you. And again, all of that is directing your thoughts, your desires away from yourself. In that way, you will never find divinity. You need to look inside of yourself. You need to see yourself. And as I say, in all the possibilities in all of the cosmos, nobody seems to mention the possibility that you remain human. You could choose to be human. Once you are presented with every choice, you could choose to be what you are. And that is the one choice that nobody seems to mention. Be part of this web of life, but have self-determination. Be a god. Be the creator of self. Self-determining what self is by determining what it is you're being influenced by and to what amount. That is your choice. That is freedom, and that is self-determination inside of the web. Be a god of this world, in this world, and of this world. Right. I hope this makes sense. And I leave it at that for today. And let's hope we reach a level of divinity without losing self. I leave it at that. Talk to you again soon. Bye.